Welcome back to The Watch, and in a more solemn, sad introduction, this is the review for episode 1 and 2 of the Ahsoka TV series. We've come straight from episode 2 now. Tyranth, what are your thoughts and feelings?
I'm kind of tired. I actually feel like taking a nap, to be honest. I'm actually really, I'm not even joking with you guys. I actually feel like taking a nap right now. So, to save a lot of time and trouble, I will explain this. No spoilers. We won't get into spoilers for those people who want to watch it themselves or don't want to be spoiled right off the bat. How to describe this show? Well, I actually have a really, really good way that will perfectly encapsulate what this show is, so your expectations are set accordingly. This show is simply Rebels live action. There's no ifs or buts about it. If you're a fan of Rebels, you'll like this show. It is Rebels live action. I'm not a fan of Rebels, to be honest. It's not really my thing. I didn't really enjoy it. So, yeah.
That's it?
That's my thoughts.
Those are your thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, extending on to that, I also didn't like the show either. I felt that a lot of the characters, and because it's live action, right? You don't have as much freedom in terms of animation. You can be a bit more funny, cartoony, lively, whatever. This doesn't have any of that. Because it's live action and they're too afraid to actually lean into anything like that, the characters act very wooden.
Yeah.
There are parts where characters are like acting in like different environments in the real world. You can tell that because they just don't know how to talk to each other.
Okay.
There's elements of, like, I just think this is a poorly made show.
Well, on that point, there are some thought. I'll add on to that.
Yeah.
So first off, in terms of a show, in terms of cinematography, I would say it's world class. The cinematography on the first and second episode was beautiful. Like, it was a masterclass
I
of
would
how
say
to compose shots.
Out of all the Disney Star Wars stuff we've gotten some trashy stuff. This is the best one we've gotten so far.
By leagues. But then let's get into something like visual effects. I thought the visual effects were also fantastic.
Yeah.
I did not see. I think there was one scene. It's not really a spoiler. I think it's in the trailer, actually, when she jumps down from the thing to the thing.
Yeah.
That was a very quick cut.
Yeah.
Type thing. And we've seen Jedi leap. Like,
Yeah.
that was the only shot in the first two episodes that I thought the VFX was not good on. Everything else looked fantastic.
It looks amazing. Like, I think if we were to judge this on its visual appearance, it's pristine, it's clean, it's good.
Then we get into things like set design and props.
Can't complain.
World class.
And they've done a very good version of converting like the animated stuff to live action.
So, like, in terms of like all the ingredients there, world class cinematography, some of the best VFX in Star Wars I've ever seen, and then you get things like props and set design, best.
Yeah.
And so you have a show here that is absolutely beautiful, incredible to look at, and you think to yourself, huh. So Kenobi was shot on an iPhone, and then this was shot, and it brings you around to this thing. Like, all right, so a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. We actually recorded a video a couple of days ago on Ahsoka on our predictions going into it, and there was some things we said on that, but we're not going to release it because
it's already out. There's
it's
no
out
point.
now, so there's no point. But we said along the lines of, I wonder if Dave Filoni is going to treat this like absolute, like he's going to make this.
It's his baby. He's not going to let anyone touch it.
The answer to that question is yes. He treated this like it was one of the canon movies.
Yeah.
He treated this with so much care and love. You can tell. And it's funny because when you compare it to literally everything else, it's like, wow, this is insane.
Night and day in terms, like, comparison and quality. It's crazy.
In terms of quality, yeah. And it's at a point where it's so noticeable. Like, you're like, if you watch Kenobi and you watch just the first two episodes of this, you go, is this even the same thing?
Yeah.
Like, he was even doing wipe transitions every 5 seconds.
It felt more Star Wars than everything else. Like, okay, my gripe was...
Sorry, there was one more. Sorry,
Yeah,
just to interrupt you. There was one extra point. Sound design. The sound design in this was also unbelievable.
Music as well.
Yeah.
There's actually parts where I was like, this sounds like Star Wars.
Yeah.
There was a rock track, but I let that slide because it made sense with the character.
So
like,
to recap again, world-class cinematography,
Yeah.
some of the best VFX I've ever seen in Star Wars, some of the best sets and prop design, sound design and music, absolutely perfectly top-notch.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like, it's better than the sequel movies in terms of all those aspects. So when we come to the characters, I don't care. I don't care. Ahsoka's the only one that I care for, and even then, it's like she's been in every show at this point.
I also feel like she's reached past, and it's going to sound bad for some people, her due-by date.
Yes.
Like, she's been in too much. She's done so much, like, to the point now where I'm like, okay, why is Ahsoka here anymore? Like, there is no hero's arc or journey or whatever here. She's just always popping into stuff to just be there.
So I just want to make sure. So anybody who's, like not subscribed, just they randomly come across this and they think, oh, this is a negative Ahsoka review, blah, 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 they don't know what to talk about. It's like, what Nathan's talking about right now is when in Rebels, Ahsoka was supposed to die with Vader. So Dave Filoni invented time travel to save her. That's what he's talking about right now.
And I'm talking about, in the Clone Wars, she had an arc. She was really annoying at the start, and then she grew up and actually became a really cool character that we actually both enjoy.
Oh, yeah, I love Ahsoka.
We like Ahsoka, but in this, it feels like... I made one note while watching this, which is this is the time period after Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
Which I would say is Luke's peak period of, like, he's the Jedi Master, rebuilding the temple, and we have all of this, like, non-canon stuff now in the EU that people were like, this is the pinnacle part of storytelling in Star Wars. We don't have any of that in this time period in this TV show. It's about these other Jedi who now exist canonically because Dave Filoni made it that way, and we're bringing in these characters that I feel like Rebels has been ruined because they're extending by their due date as well. Like, it should have ended with the final season of Rebels, and then leads on to Luke and Leia and Han and their story. But because you bring them back where there should be these other characters, it feels like, okay, the sacrifice that Ezra made in the seasons previous are now longer not be as impactful because they're going to go, do stuff. It's they keep digging up dead bodies. We'll get to, stuff like that where, people should be dead, but they're not. And I don't feel anything now because despite the set dressing being amazing, despite the taste and the look being good, the actual substance of the story isn't there because they keep reiterating the same thing over and over and over again.
Okay, let's just touch on the story a little bit here. So, I guess we're going to say this is in spoiler territory.
We'll just do spoilers now because there's going to be stuff now we bring up. So, you've been told our opinion. Some people don't want to watch shows until we tell them whether or not it's value the time.
If you love Star Wars Rebels, you'll love this. That is the easiest way I can sum it up.
And I say as well, if you liked other Star Wars TV shows, like if Mando Season 3 was okay to you, you enjoyed it, you'll enjoy this too.
Oh yeah, it'll be better than all of those.
Yeah, but
like,
if you're...
in terms of everything else, it is better than those things.
It is better than the sequels, like you said. Like, I just think of any one of those. But if you're a Star Wars fan who's a bit older, a bit more,
you're tired,
opinionated, like us two, then this is not worth your time, quite honestly.
Well, this is the thing, is like, I agree, but I also think, like, I can't wait until I see the flashback scenes.
Yeah.
Because now I have hope for them. You know why I have hope for them? Because I just see how much Dave Filoni cares about this. He doesn't care about anything else in Star Wars, but he cares about this.
Yeah.
And you see, so, because he cares about Ahsoka, that means he also cares about Anakin.
Yeah.
So, we're going to get to see Anakin. There you go. I figured out the puzzle.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are your other thoughts before I get into...
No, we can get into spoilers, because I want to talk a little bit about the story. Because there are, like... I don't know, maybe I've just become more critical of seeing things like this, but it's like, it opens up with, there is a map. We must find a map.
Okay.
We must go get the map. Then they go get the map, and then she can't open the map. She can't read the map. So she takes it to Sabine to crack the map. And then Sabine does what she's not supposed to, and she takes the map. And then the bad guys come and take the map from her. So now Ahsoka has to go to the bad guys to get the map. Like...
It is such a, like
I'm so done with that type of...
101 basics, not what to do in writing because it's been done 1,000 times before. Like, this is basically Rings of Power with a Star Wars skin on it in terms of, like, what the story is. It was very basic. And you could... This is something Shad has said in the past. If you, as a viewer, know exactly what's happening or why they did something, like, we know Sabine took the map to Ezra's place, not because she needed to think, it's because she needed to be away from Ahsoka so bad guys could come and get her, and then she'd get, spoilers, stabbed and
oh my God,
basically killed.
It annoyed me so much.
And then resurrected in the next episode because death doesn't matter in Star Wars anymore.
So, I want to bring up just a little point on that scene when she gets ambushed and they take the map.
Yeah.
And she starts hand-to-hand combating with droids.
Yeah. And punching them.
With bare knuckles.
Yeah.
And she's like punching them and they're reacting like they're people. And then later because there's another scene where they have to, crack the droids' memory banks and they show you the droid's hand. It's like this thick of steel. And it's like...
I feel like it's even bigger.
When she picks it up, she goes, "Oh, this is so heavy." And then she puts it down and she opens up. It's like thick steel. It's like you were hand-to-hand fighting those people. And then, like you said, she gets stabbed and survives. Of
It means
course.
nothing.
Yeah.
Getting killed in Star Wars means nothing now because they'll just be alive in the next episodes. It happened with Kenobi when Reva got stabbed as well. Next episode, no, she just stood up. You know, Qui-Gon, poor bloody Qui-Gon, the one who would have raised Anakin to be the proper chosen one, gets stabbed and can't get saved.
But-
Yet Sabine got stabbed. Reva got stabbed.
The thing
It makes me
is,
so mad.
I actually agree that they should survive. They're in a time period where medical technology should be insane, so they should survive from these things. This is why Qui-Gon should have survived.
Yeah, Qui-Gon should have survived.
Especially when there was force healing as well.
But because he didn't,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else has the right to.
Exactly, I agree. That's
And-
the thing. They're not being consistent with it.
As writers as well, if you're going to say, okay, no one is going to get killed from stab wounds now, lightsabers have completely lost like the
Oh,
coolness of them.
Did you want to talk about lightsabers? Because you see, look, I said I'm not really a fan of Rebels. One thing that I will straight up, I will die on the hill is I hate the Rebels lightsabers. I despise those thin little noodly things.
Yeah.
Well, the thin little noodly things are back, man. Ezra's lightsaber is thinner and shorter, you can tell. And then the Inquisitor,
Yeah.
his lightsaber is like this long. Oh, it's a double blade lightsaber, by the way. It's this long and it's like this thin, and I'm like, I don't like this.
Where's the chunkiness? Where's the chunky boys?
Yeah, I literally was about to laugh. You know when he was spinning it? I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, is he gonna fly? Are they
I was
gonna
waiting
do
for that
that?
too.
I'm
There's
like,
a-
They didn't. They didn't fly, thankfully. But I was waiting for it.
See, this is one other thing we can say with this episode. There are parts we looked at each other.
Episodes. Two.
Yeah. We didn't laugh.
No, we didn't.
There
laugh.
weren't any moments where and there weren't any like,
Mm.
you know, the sounds that we make when we watch something and it's just unbearable. So this show wasn't unbearable, but also I didn't feel anything. And one of the reasons why is because it's so long
I was about to get
and
to
drawn
that.
out.
We really have to get to that.
and boring. Holy crap. The amount of times you go back to Ezra's lair for people to stand around and reiterate the same information we've already had. Like, when Sabine gets stabbed, she tells Ahsoka everything that happened, and then Ahsoka goes to Ezra's hideout and looks at the exact same things that happened and
Sabine's
goes,
hideout, yeah.
yes, Sabine is correct. Okay, cool.
So this is like this. This isn't even like a subjective thing. Objectively, scenes are really, really long and really, really drawn out. And it's crazy because like every time we get these Disney Plus shows, they're like 24 minutes, which is way too short. Or if they have filler, an unforgivable sin, especially when they're like 6 episodes or whatever. These first 2 episodes are really long, and they are just filled with like the parts in movies that get skipped over.
Yeah.
That's what it's filled with. Like, you know, someone going to, like, they do an inspection of the thing, which is really good because I like the inspection scene because they're talking about like, well, hey, you know, these are all former Imperials. How can you, you know,
Trust them.
and it's like, well, money's money. Like, they don't care who is paying them. And it's like, this is a good scene because it's a truthful thing. But then you get to it's like to the point where it's like, who's this clearance? Well, I can't do this clearance. Well, who's this clearance? Well, who did this clearance? Oh, was the droid? And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, you know what's happening because they're showing you that all the Imperials are looking around. It's like, okay, can we just
Move on, please.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
There's so many elements of that, and there's just so many lines. I've got notes written down, but they're quite long. But yeah, they're so drawn out. You could probably condense this into one episode, I think.
But
these 2 episodes.
I want to be clear here. I want longer episodes for like Star Wars shows.
Yes.
I just want them to be filled with stuff.
Yeah,
Like story stuff, you know, important stuff. Not
it's
just.
because here's the thing, right? I think we're fine with pacing. If there's a big action sequence, and I mean, other points too, stuff can be a bit slower. You can have dialogue. We're not saying those things are boring because you can make them interesting. You've seen stuff in like House of the Dragon.
Yep.
A lot of that stuff is dialogue, but it's like
Oh, yeah.
interesting, engaging. Like when you're talking, it's like, oh, this is dramatic. These scenes are like, oh, I'm not training Sabine anymore because, you know, I left. She wasn't ready. Why aren't you ready? Oh, she's just not ready. How do you know she's ready? Oh, when she's ready, you just know that she's ready. Like, there's just 15 minutes of like, okay, there was nothing gained from watching that scene.
So there's a couple of points I want to talk about while I remember them. First off, lightsaber combat. I remember I spoke to you like a couple of days before this came out that they said there was more lightsaber duels in this than the entire sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
That's true. In the first 2 episodes, there is more lightsaber duels in the entire sequel trilogy. Are they better than the sequel trilogy ones? Yes, actually, because the ones in the sequel trilogy are hot garbage.
Yes, they are.
But not by much.
But like, it's like if we were rating trash
Mm.
and say the sequel trilogy was up here, I
Well,
think
see,
Ahsoka was
Ahsoka's are fine. Ahsoka's duels are fine. The
Yes.
problem is Sabine's
Sabine
and
and that
the
apprentice Sith girl.
yeah,
that was
painful. Like
so many binds and twirls and like
spins, yes,
spins,
yes. And like I'm not gonna sit here and try and critique the lightsaber combat because like it seems like they're trying to deliver more complex combat rather than baseball swinging bats. So I am on board with that for sure. The problem is, like, you can pass it off as Sabine not being properly trained, so whatever. But at the same time, why is the apprentice not really trained?
yeah, but
Like,
I thought this apprentice should have kicked her butt
Yeah.
way sooner.
Yeah.
I felt like she was playing with her.
But there was lightsaber combat and the look of the lightsaber, just the whole thing. But then we get to villainy. Villains are fun. Like, I love a good villain. A good villain is a really, really important, engaging hook to a story. Now, Thrawn is a really good villain. But Thrawn's not in the story yet, so we're having to deal with, I can't remember her name, the lady.
Yeah.
The Night Sister lady. She's like cartoony villain. And it takes me out of it.
I feel like she was supposed to be like,
Yeah, like that.
Yes, we must find Thrawn.
All her dialogue is clunky dialogue in the sort of like, we must get the orb to do the thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's all very cartoony villain in your... And like, the Jedi dude sitting there like, cool. Like, all right.
All right. I guess I have to
Good.
deal with her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like-
That's the funny thing too, because she's like, "We go to this scene, this, that," and the apprentice or the master just goes to the apprentice and says, "Can you do that?"
Yeah.
All right, cool, go do that. Like, it makes those scenes so much less like anticlimactic because like when the Emperor was in the room back in the day, it was like,
Oh, yeah.
"Lord Vader, you must do this thing," and it's like, "Yes, my master, go do it." Well, now she's like, "Hello, bad Jedi, we're going to do this thing
Yeah.
to find Thrawn."
Yeah. Continue.
And my one issue, right? Okay, they want to find Thrawn. I get that, but I don't feel their motives. Like, I feel like the main villainous lady is a villain because she's a villain.
Yes.
But I don't know.
I understand their motives because, like, I know more of the lore, though. 'Cause,
Yeah, but like that hasn't been incorporated in the story.
They do mention it.
That's the thing, though. They mention it. Like the Emperor, it's like, you know that he wants unlimited power.
Should we mention the new, I don't know how to describe this, the new interesting lore that's happening?
Sure.
So, obviously, like, it's Star Wars, it's in space, and you have the stars. What's a star? Well, what's a cluster of stars? It's a galaxy, right? But it's never been, like, usually when, like, if we go to something like the EU, we've got, like, the Yu Zhongvong, who are in the unknown regions, things like that. Well, this time it's just straight up different galaxies.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to a different galaxy. Like, that's, like, I don't know if they'll actually go, but that's the very... That's the premise. That's
Well,
the
basically
premise.
say Thrawn is in the other galaxy.
Yeah,
We
and
will
we've got
get
to
him.
go to the other galaxy. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, so now there's a whole bunch of other galaxies. That's interesting. There's a force work in there. You know, what type of people do they have there? Like, there's a lot to explore in our own time period, in our own galaxy.
Yeah.
You want to start... it feels
Expanding out.
It just feels like the time travel thing again. Like,
Yeah.
let's just open a can of worms that you cannot close. It's like that.
Because
And
then
I'm not feeling it.
It already happens when they're having, branching timelines with these sorts of things. Like right now, why isn't Luke helping out Ahsoka find Thrawn if, he's a thing to the, rising of the Empire? Like, as soon as you introduce more galaxies, you're going to get stuff like with the Eternals and Marvel of like, wait, you guys saved the Earth? Where were you guys with Thanos? Like, you didn't exist. You're going to get so much more of that once you expand that universe.
I've already got that a little bit when I'm sitting there like, okay, so when does this stuff with Mando happen? Because that obviously happens before when he first meets Ahsoka.
Yes.
Because he defeats the lady. That this
Yeah,
continues on from that. But then when does Ahsoka go and see Luke with Grogu? Because
That was during Boba Fett,
that
and we
was
have
during
no
Boba Fett.
idea.
We have no idea where that
Well-
time is. And the problem is, Ahsoka's embarking on a giant... She's going to another galaxy.
So I think they're trying to do it like how they're releasing it, because Mando does have the dark saber.
Right.
And now he doesn't, and Ahsoka left Luke to go do a thing to find the guy, to find Thrawn. So I think what we've seen so far is going in its period sense. We haven't gone back and forth much.
Right.
But if that's the case, then I've got more question as to, okay, are we going to revisit Luke? Is Mando going to come? Are we going to get like a Mando episode halfway through this?
I'm already confused because first off, Luke is rebuilding the Jedi Order. He's the one who took down the Empire.
Yeah.
So why are you calling Ahsoka to fix your problems? don't get me wrong, Ahsoka's a great choice to handle your problems. But
Yeah.
at the same time, Grandmaster Luke is
Yeah.
also a really good choice. You know, the guy who saved everybody.
And like, I love how Sadine's like, oh, I can't go train with Ahsoka. She doesn't want to. It's like,
like-
well, you know, there's a guy that like stopped this giant war.
I know a guy who can help you.
Like, he's got a temple. You know,
Yeah.
he's probably a lot nicer than Ahsoka. I feel like they forget so much that's in this universe now, and the fact that they're opening up a can of worms with other galaxies. Maybe it's just my purist Star Wars self.
Mm.
When this show opens, Filoni gives you a title crawl in red.
I like the red.
I do like the red too.
Yeah.
I was a bit like, why aren't you doing the traditional credits, going through?
Yeah.
Why is it scrolling up like this?
It was also Arial as well. Like the font was Arial.
Yeah.
Like the most basic of basic fonts. I
it
didn't
was-
get that.
Maybe he, who knows? Maybe there was a really big push. He wanted that, and they were like, "You can't have it like how the old movies were," because we were trying to get away from that. So maybe he had to like find a way to Frankenstein it into the show. But the fact that we don't have any more like a long time ago in the galaxy far, far away, it just feels like. My assumption is 10 years from now, Star Wars is going to be like on Earth with E.T. and Captain America's there. Like it's going to be into a big blodge of crossovers, and it's not going to have its original DNA it had to begin with.
Right. Well, this was like in terms of how a Star Wars show feels. This felt more Star Wars than Book of Boba.
Oh, yeah.
Mandalorian. Like Mandalorian, like I said, I liked it, but it didn't feel Star Warsy. It felt new and fresh.
Yeah.
Like a new type of Star Wars, a new generation of Star Wars. It felt like that.
Yes.
This very much feels like a return to older Star Wars, but not quite exactly that. And it feels like Filoni's trying to copy George Lucas in a lot of ways. That's what it feels like. And
He's copying his homework, but then changing the things that he wants to
and
make it his own.
I'm not saying when I say copying, I'm not saying that in a negative connotation.
He does it really well.
Yeah, like it's kind of, it works. Like it's better than nothing is what I'm going to say for sure. It's better than like just creating, the sequels, which are nothing like anything. So he's copying, but not in a negative way, more so in a positive way. And it does feel like, it definitely feels a lot more Star Warsy than everything else that's came out of late. Especially if like we compare it to things like Andor or whatever else.
In terms of how they look, I think they've done a really good job. But how they are as characters, I think they stick to what we've seen in Rebels. It's just the way they interact and talk. Like there's a part where Sabine's being attacked, and the droid walks in with Ahsoka and stuff and says, Sabine's being attacked, and they both go. And cut to the next scene. Like when Shad comes in to the studio and says, "Hey guys, can I throw a spin in the works?" We all go, "Whoa, what's going on?" Like there's no urgency in this. There's also a part where Sabine's on the like speed racer thing. She didn't come to this celebration, whatever, for them saving the city. And his X-Wings are like, "Hey, Sabine, you got to pull over." And she's like racing. And then he's like, you got to go back to the thing. And then, they fly an X-Wing down and she's racing towards it. And they're like, "Oh no, she's going to hit it." And instead, she just turns off the engine, scrapes underneath it, and then keeps going. And X-Wing's like, "All right, I guess I'll leave you be." Like, there's just things in the show that doesn't make any sense. If you're chasing someone down and they do like a backflip, the cops aren't going to be like, "All right, mad respect for you. I'm going to let you keep going."
Yeah.
Like, no, you've been sent on assignment.
All right, well, I did my job. I
Yeah,
could
like-
not possibly do anything else in this situation.
Stuff like that. It's like, okay, that's really dumb. There's also the two episodes are based around this orb, this cube that is the map to...
The MacGuffin.
to
It's
Thrawn.
just the MacGuffin. It's the Sith sword all over again.
It
It's
is.
all
It
these
is. It
things
is
again.
basically a Rubik's Cube that Ahsoka couldn't figure out. Because when Sabine gets it, she goes, "I see. If I match these symbols up with the cube," and she goes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. And it's like, I've played video games, like in Uncharted. Sometimes there's times you got to do a code,
Yeah.
and I'm too lazy
Yeah,
to do the code. So you know what I do?
Google it. Yeah.
No, I don't Google it. I'll just go, "That one work? No. All right.
right,
That one work? No." And after 10 minutes, you usually can get the code, especially if it's only 3 digits. You can just go through sequentially pretty easy to find it. Where Ahsoka's like, oh no, I can't do that. I've got to go get Sabine to figure it out. And then there's just, the whole thing of, to make it feel like there's a threatening situation, you have to have an excuse like, oh, I need time to think somewhere else, Ahsoka, because your quiet, safe spaceship isn't good enough for me. So I'm going to go to my hideout without you to get attacked so the bad guys can get the map to go to Thrawn. And now I feel like I have something to invest in as a viewer. But I don't, because I saw that a mile away. So that's my biggest issue with all this. I feel like if this is the writing we're going to get with Ahsoka, I'm not very confident in what Thrawn's arc is going to be. Right. And by arc, I mean just the experience we're going to have with him. He's going to be... Everyone's going to be so predictable. And I'm not looking forward to that. Because the thing I love with Thrawn is that it's like, oh, what does he know that I don't know? He's always this amazing general, man. Like, I feel like if Filoni can't write an interesting... Because I have a question too, right? If I was Thrawn and I was in a different galaxy and I wanted the Empire to find me, would I put it in a little orb cube that looks like a High Republic technology, put it in a temple that a Jedi will go find, only for them to, like... Well, this is... All right. So it doesn't make any sense, again, like you were saying.
That I hate. I just don't understand why everybody, they leave, and then they leave, like, an ancient temple map everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to find Luke. Well, we've got to go to this desert planet to find this temple. Like, why are people leaving maps everywhere? We got to go find the Sith Empire and Palpatine somehow returned, or we got to go find this at this planet.
Find this saber
that I left there. Just like I'm sorry, I just do not understand this logic.
No, and I've been listening to Heir to the Empire, the book that basically started off Thrawn's arc, and the completely ignoring Thrawn himself, the way that cause and effect happened was so much more interesting and sensible. You didn't have characters making MacGuffins. Everything had a cause and effect. It was like, this person does this, and therefore this other person reacts this way, and you have this awesome chain of events, and clever writers can do this to then, shape their way into a good story, where this just feels like they already have a destination they want to be, so we need some sort of MacGuffin to get us there, and along the way, it's not very fun.
I would say the biggest lesson I've learned from these Disney Plus series is you don't actually need to have a good story or good episodes.
No.
You just need to have something fan servicey at the very last episode, and people lose their mind. It happened with Kenobi. Absolute garbage the whole way through. Yeah. And then right at the end, they have a canon-breaking scene where, Kenobi beats Vader with the power of friendship, even though Vader's in his prime, and Kenobi hasn't trained in 10 years and is rusty with lightsaber, and Vader's super powerful. Anyway, he beats him, and then you get a heartfelt scene between Anakin, Vader, Anakin, and Kenobi, and then everybody goes, "Yep, all sins forgiven. Yep. This was just fantastic." And then I feel like we're going to get that with this as well. We'll get like Thrawn and Ezra or something like that that Rebels fans will probably love, and they'll go, you know what? Anything else is like, it doesn't matter. I forgot it.
Yeah. Well, before we saw the show, because we were doing work beforehand, I was looking on Twitter to see what people were saying. Everyone just loves it. Yeah. Everyone just loves it. Because it is not offending anyone. And it's mostly Rebel fans who are like, yay, I can see my favorite characters in live action. I understand that. But if you're actually trying to... I didn't feel at all entertained. I wasn't ever lost in the story. And half the time I was like, where are we going with this? Like, when we open with Ahsoka, she's going in the temple. I don't know her motives. I don't know what we're looking for. Because all she... there's this ground, and look, there's parts where I'm like, okay, this makes sense for Ahsoka. She's smart, there's this floor, she's going to have to open it. Instead of, trying to... key around or whatever, she just gets her lightsabers, drills a hole, and goes into the alleyway to find the thing. But
I think, like I said, right at the very beginning, the best way to summarize this is if you're a Rebels fan, you will like this. And hey, I genuinely, if you're a giant Ahsoka fan, I love Ahsoka, but if you're a giant Ahsoka fan and you love this and you love Rebels and you are really enjoying it so far, all the power to you. I'm not going to take that away from you because I feel like this is head and shoulders above all the other garbage we've gotten. But it still is what it is.
There's certain lines that make me go, ugh, roll my eyes. There's one line where nothing's really happening, and then Sabine says, wow, this is getting more exciting by the minute.
I thought you were saying you're resilient, just like I am.
Yeah.
A self-compliment.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that one.
No, that was that one too, where it's like, the droid's resilient, just like me. It's like, okay, just because you can survive a stab wound. And then there was another one where Ahsoka's forget the past, leave the past behind, embrace the future. It's like, oh, I've heard that before, haven't I? big corporation, something to forget, the thing I grew up loving. One other thing that, look, it needs to be said. This is an all-female cast.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
There is one Sith Master
Mm-hmm.
and the mention of Ezra and like Ezra's thing, but
Yeah.
everyone else is female. And some might say, hey, Star Wars was all male back in the day. I mean, you're sure you had Leia, but like, it was male. I'm just saying, I felt Rebels had a much like clearer gender connection. Where
Yeah, but with all the men are dead now.
Yeah.
Like
Because they all
that's not even-
sacrificed themselves
that's
and
not-
actually did the
yeah,
right thing. Where all
that's
the
not a
women,
joke. All the men in Rebels died. So
Yeah, like
there's none left.
the women lived, and so when we come back to the show, it's like, okay, all these women are just doing these things, and Star Wars, as much as Kathleen Kennedy likes to say, Star Wars is female.
Yeah.
I strongly believe Star Wars, the reason George made it was to tell a father-son story and like the importance of like.
Well, we've told that now, so now they don't care. There was one scene. Sorry, I have to bring this up. I just thought of it now, and it actually offended me.
Yeah.
It was when they were putting a tracking on the ship, and so how would you put something that tracks something on a ship? Well, you know how I would not do it. I would get my little droid, my R2 unit, R40, with little crab hands, to literally throw it from one ship to another in space. That's the one way I would not do it. I would shoot it, I'd fire it, I'd fire a little thing. Yeah, that's not even a joke. There is a scene where Syndulla gets the droid, is it Chopper? I can't remember.
Chopper, yeah.
Gets Chopper to literally pick up the tracking device with his little claws and throw it from one ship to the other in space before it jumps to hyperspace.
And these are like seconds before.
Yeah, like that was just one scene where I'm like, what? I'm sorry, what?
There's so many things. Like we see in, is it Clone Wars when Kenobi and Boba are like, not Boba, Jango, like the tracking device on there, like he shoots it on. Yeah. It makes sense.
No, he throws it.
He throws it.
Yeah.
That's
because he's fighting him and he's on the ground. He doesn't have a gun. He just picks up.
Sorry,
and goes,
I was thinking of the when they throw the thing.
Yeah.
No. He throws it.
Yeah.
But it's in the atmosphere. It makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Where
he's literally on the ground with his lightsaber, and the
yeah.
ship's right there, and he's like, "Well, I got to track it." So
boom.
Yeah.
But this one, also just like it made sense for Boba because he was flying away. He thought, "Oh, I'll go away from the Jedi now." This one, it's like we're being chased by this ship.
It's literally right next to us, going over us as he throws
and
it down.
you could look down probably from the window and be like, there's a droid that threw a thing onto our ship. Maybe we shouldn't go to hyperspace, Stuff like that where it did not feel grounded. And I get Star Wars doesn't always feel grounded, but there's just elements where I'm like, oof.
That was a big one thing. I'm sorry. Just having it, like, this is, and I'm not joking. You're probably thinking that I'm joking right now, but we literally see the droid throw a tracking thing from one ship to another in the vacuum of space. We see this before it jumps to hyperspace.
It's shocking.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like these are most of our thoughts for the show. I was going through my notes quickly to see if I have anything else. But I'm also, with the whole orb stuff, they just remind me all of Jedi Survivor and the High Republic, Disney Incorporated. So I'm...
But to be fair here, that works in a game sense because it's a game. Like, you're supposed to go do that sort of thing.
But my issue with Disney doing that is that game was based between episode 3 and 4.
Oh, right.
And you're bringing back all of this old stuff that didn't exist. It's them introducing new things. So I'm also concerned, okay, if we're getting these orbs, what other bullcrap are they going to call? Because like that droid, the Jedi training droid, that's like, yes, I've trained Jedi for over 500 years. Like, I'm sure he's going to be also in the High Republic. You're such a good guy. You guys should go buy the High Republic books, available now on Amazon from Disney Store.
From Clone Wars. He's from Clone Wars.
I know, but...
And I like him because it's David Tennant. I like
him. This is just going to be Star Wars for the next 50 years.
Sorry, I just remembered. You just reminded me of the lightsaber identification scene.
So when these Sith go to get the prisoner, there's a recording they have of them revealing themselves and using lightsabers and chopping everyone up. But for some reason, even though this is, New Republic footage, it got corrupted. And so you know what they had to do? They had to what was it? Like recover
yeah,
the corrupted file
yeah.
and then enhance the lightsabers to see what they look like.
And then match those designs with the droids to see which Padawan made it. And it's like, well, why does he still have his Padawan lightsaber? It's a whole thing. And I'm going to be honest here, as someone who's made lightsabers, who loves lightsabers, those lightsaber designs were trash. No, like not even as a joke, man. They were not cool. I was not feeling those. Those lightsabers.
They were very basic.
They looked like DIY, like
You know
would
what?
smash together.
You know what I reckon? I reckon they were. I mean, see, when you said initially, I was thinking, oh, it'd be easy to make toys of those. So maybe they just made them so that you could buy them as toys. But maybe. I mean, that's what they did with Leia's droid. That was just a toy.
That was just an extra thought that I got reminded of just then. But I do think that is most of our thoughts for episode 1 and 2. Like we said, if you're a Rebels fan, you'll love it. Cinematography, A plus, A triple plus. Sound design, fantastic. Cinematography, prop design, all that fantastic. But story and if you're not really that big of a fan of Rebels, then you might like it. It's better than it's definitely better than a lot of other the Disney Plus shows.
But as our friend Marcus says, we shouldn't accept scraps.
Oh yeah.
And so for us at least, it was incredibly slow. I personally, there was nothing emotional that I got from any of it really. Like even Ezra's message, it's like.
Yeah, but I think you would more if you were more of a Rebels fan.
But I've watched Rebels.
Do you like Rebels?
No.
Exactly. So that's why
I know, but
it's just because I don't like Rebels. I'm like,
Yeah, but you know what? I watch Korean dramas, and after the second episode, I'm already invested in the characters and story because
I've had enough of hearing about things.
I'm just saying, if it's emotionally good, then I'll find a connection to it because I found nothing from it because it was just all deadpan silence and wooden acting. I'm sorry. I think these actors are good actors. I've seen other things. They're good. But just the dialogue, the way they speak to each other. Is just so, and you know what? When they go to the base and talk to the undercover Imperial officer and stuff, whatever, that was good. But once they're by themselves and they're trying to grow them as a group or whatever, I don't feel anything. There isn't any camaraderie. There's no chemistry.
Right.
That's the word I would use. No chemistry. But yeah, those are my comments. Those are my thoughts of the show.
I don't know. Maybe they'll. I'm sick of saying maybe I'll. I'm sick of saying that. It never happened. Yeah. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoy. If you like Rebels, go watch it out. Go watch the show. You'll like it.
Are you gonna watch episode 3 with me?
We'll see.
All right, everyone. Until then, stay on watch.